prema phala deha jaratare. Sabakare. Ladies. Ataiva ami agya dilun sabakare. Jahataha prema phala deha koratare. Ataiva ami agya dilun sabakare. Ateva, therefore, Ami, I, Agya, order, Dilan, give, Shabakare, to everyone, Jahan, wherever. The last N is not pronounced, it's Tahan, everywhere. Prema phala, the fruit of love of Godhead. Deha, distribute. Jare, anyone. Tare, everyone. Therefore, I order every man within this universe to accept this Krishna conscious movement and distribute it everywhere. Purport. In this connection, there is a song sung by Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, Ene chiyo sadimaya nasi barilagi, Harinama Mahamantra lao tumimagi, Bhagati Vinoda Prabhu, Charanapadiya, She Hariram Mantra Loila Magiya. The Sankirtan movement has been introduced by Lord Chaitanya just to dispel the illusion of Maya, by which everyone in this world thinks himself to be a product of matter, and therefore to have many duties pertaining to the body. Actually, the living entity is not this material body. He is a spirit soul. He has a spiritual need to be eternally blissful and full of knowledge, but unfortunately identifies himself with the body, sometimes as a human being, sometimes as an animal, sometimes as a tree, sometimes an aquatic, sometimes a demigod, and so on. Thus, with each change of body, he develops a different type of consciousness with different types of activities, and thus becomes increasingly entangled in material existence, transmigrating perpetually from one body to another. Under the spell of Maya or illusion, he does not consider the past or future, but is simply satisfied with the short lifespan that he's gotten for the present. To eradicate this illusion, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has brought the Sankirtan movement, and he requests everyone to accept and distribute it. A person who is actually a follower of Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur must immediately accept the request of Lord Chaitanya by offering respectful obeisances unto his lotus feet, and thus beg from him the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. If one is fortunate enough to beg from the Lord this Hare Krishna Mahamantra, his life is successful. Om Jnanati Mirandasya Kanana Sadakya Sakshuna Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha.
I will just step in whenever.
How we get? Yeah.
I'm from the old school.
Yeah, old school is good. This is old school verse.
Yeah.
We used to read this. Hare Krishna. So this is part of the Adi Lila, chapter 9, the chapter that speaks about the desire tree of devotional service which Lord Chaitanya planted. If we go back a little bit in the previous verses, it just says, I am the only gardener. How many places can I go? How many fruits can I pick and distribute? It would certainly be a very laborious task to pick the fruits and distribute them alone. Still, I suspect that some would receive them and others would not. Therefore, I order every man within this universe to accept this Krishna conscious movement and distribute it everywhere. So Lord Chaitanya is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And although he says he's the only gardener, and how can I pick all these fruits? He can. He doesn't even need to pick the fruits. If he simply desires, everyone will just have them. If the Lord just desires, everyone would just suddenly wake up and start saying, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Krishna. Tears would shoot from their eyes. If the Lord would so desire, the whole universe would just automatically be Krishna conscious. But we see that Lord Chaitanya is ordering every living being in the universe to take up this mission, to become Krishna conscious and then to distribute this movement everywhere. And why is it so? Why is it so? It is because it is in the distribution itself, in the distribution of this transcendental mercy itself, that Krishna is found. It is there where Krishna is found. When Dhruva Maharaj was a young boy and he was somehow or other insulted, he was not allowed to sit on the lap of his father. So he was very upset, very upset. And in the end, he went to complain to his mother, who said, there's nothing I can do. I cannot help you. Only God can help you. Okay, where can I find him? I'll go there. Then his mother said, you can find God in the forest. And Dhruva went to the forest. But nowadays, who finds God in the forest? Right? Nowadays, we find God on the street. That's where we find him. Of course, and if somehow or other, where we meet people and where we are somehow or other approaching people and pierce that bubble of illusion, and suddenly appear in that bubble of illusion with transcendental force. And it is surprising. It is surprising to see that many people are actually waiting for something. At least sometimes we are surprised, right? That when people take up Krishna consciousness, they didn't look like they would. But then again, why is it so surprising? We took it, right? We also found that life without Krishna consciousness is not satisfying the heart. So the general populace of the world is certainly controlled by the illusory energy. But yes, when we look at a description of Maya, Maya has two potencies, the Praksepatmika Shakti and the Avaranatmika Shakti. The Praksepatmika Shakti of Maya is the throwing potency. So maybe that's basically the the Shakti of temptation. So Bhaktivinoda Thakur says, in our dealings with Maya, It is like a war. Right? It's like a war. And he says, in a war, one is not just facing the opposite party on the other side. No, there are also spies that are mixing within our own ranks. Right? So he says, in the same way, Maya is not only without, Maya is within. And that is the difficulty. If Maya was only without, it would be easier. But because Maya is already within, it is difficult. It is difficult. We are already compromised. Yes. And Maya, she knows. She knows every of our most hidden desires. Even if we ourselves are not ready to admit yet that the desire is there. Maya knows it. Then she takes the opportunity and just bounces it under our nose. Tu-tum, tu-tum, tu-tum. Oh no, my God. Oh no, why is this coming now? Now that I've joined the Hare Krishna movement and I'm following regulative principles, and now this comes. Oh no, I can't do this. No, but it's too good to say no. Oh no, what will I do? If I don't take this opportunity, I'll never forgive myself. Anyway, can always be in Maya today and be Krishna conscious tomorrow. The Praksepatmika Shakti, the temptation. That temptation. So Maya uses that temptation to capture the living being. And then Maya is none other than Durga Devi, and riding on a tiger, and she has 10 arms, and she holds weapons in these 10 arms, and in one of the arms she holds a trident, the Trisun. She has this trident. And this trident is ready. She bounces with the throwing potency, the opportunity under your nose, and then you think, oh, is this for me? Oh, nice, yes, and then, doing. That was painful, yeah. Oh, this trident of the threefold miseries, Adhyatmika, Adhibhaudika, Adhidaivika kleshs, suffering from mind and body, suffering from other living beings, and suffering from natural circumstances, from the devatas. And she will stab us with this trident. I was like, whoa. Whew. I learned my lesson. I learned my lesson. I will not, never again. But then the next time, again, there is the throwing potency, the temptation. It's back. No, I don't want it. No. But, it does look good. No, I don't want it, but it does look good. And then comes the covering potency. She said, well, it was painful. It was very painful. But it was only short. So then was, okay, I'll take it. So I go, but holding on to the enjoyment. And then say, if you don't suffer, then how will you actually be able to enjoy? Now the circle is closed, right? It's closed. We have justified suffering. This is the covering potency. We're suffering like a dog and this thing. No, it's good. It's good. It's really good. Yeah, it's good. And so, the knot, the Hridaya Granthim, the knot in the heart is very tight. And people are not able to get out of the grip of the illusory energy. It's interesting because many times you need people who are interested in Krishna consciousness, and they understand something as we're explaining Krishna consciousness, but somehow or other it is as if they're helplessly being dragged away by Maya. So what about that? Just too weak, just too much control, too much in the grip of that witch Maya. Then what can we do? Then we can engage people somehow or other in some service, right? And then some preliminary purification can take place until they can actually act upon transcendental knowledge, until they can actually take it. Just some service. And if we are in that boat, in the Bhagavad Gita, in the 11th chapter, there are a number of verses which are, chapter 12, there are a number of verses that are basically stating, if you cannot do this, then what are you supposed to do? If you cannot follow the regulative principles, then just work for me. Like that. It gives instructions for people who cannot follow and how they can purify themselves. So, in this way, it is the duty of the Vaishnavas to create opportunities for devotional service in this world. I remember in Cape Town, we went on the first Rath Yatra, and we left with 400 devotees. We came back with 1,000, and all kinds of people were pulling the chariot. Muslims were pulling the chariot with the little hat on, you know, the topi. And yes, they were pulling the chariot. And the city councillor, he was walking up front, and every year he does, like a commander, you know, he is a kshatriya, and he's a commander, and he just like holds the ropes and get everyone, come, we pulling the chariot now. This is somehow or other, there always is a way. We can see how Ratha Yatra is part of Lord Chaitanya's movement. How in his pastimes Ratha Yatra is there. We can see how in Srila Prabhupada's early childhood pastimes Ratha Yatra is there, how he introduced Ratha Yatra all over the world. And we can see that miracles happen in Ratha Yatra because we see that people who are totally cold, have absolutely no exposure to Krishna consciousness, suddenly get very enthusiastic. They love it. So, in this way, this movement is meant to create many entrance points. Some are doing it with yoga. Some are convinced bridge preaching is the only way. There is no other way. It's not possible to make anyone Krishna conscious unless there is bridge preaching, bridge preaching. Bridge. We play bridge. And okay, yes, we can speak about, you know, the universal cosmic energy that on which everything rests, and we can just speak about being unified. He's gonna get up if I go on like this.
No.
Okay, he looks like he's gonna.
It's getting so exciting, my legs are sleeping.
I see. It looked like he was gonna walk away.
I have to walk on a bridge back and forth.
Well, this is the point, you know. First of all, we were talking yesterday. Yes, we can. One can do bridge preaching, but how long are we going to be bridging? Bridging means we're reaching out to people and present Krishna consciousness in a way that it looks very similar to something that they know, right? Yoga, this, that. Yeah. But eventually we have to tell them, this is about sarva dharma parichaya mamekam saranam braja ham tvam sarva papebhyo moksha isyami masuchaha. This is about surrender. This is about abandoning all variety of activities and just surrendering it to Krishna. It's about giving your life to Krishna. Prabhupada was saying that so many people, they are practicing what they think is a spiritual process, and they say, you are good and we are good and everyone's good, and they all hold hands, kumbaya and like this. But Prabhupada would say, no, we have to tell them, we are good and you are not good. So that's not always popular, right? It's more popular to say, I am good, you are good, all of us are good, and love and everything. No. This is the truth, and that's rubbish, right? Prabhupada was not at all flattering people. He was not catering to the audience. So Prabhupada was preaching very straight. And we saw when we preach through Krishna consciousness and we put yoga in the front and yoga in the back and yoga all around us, and in between a little Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Some undercover Hare Krishna. Then what we see, yes, people respond to it, yes, people like it, but they stay there. They stay with Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya, which is very good, but they never come to chanting Hare Krishna. That's rare, to really chant, to take it up for real. Very few. Most just stay there in their yoga world. So the challenge with bridge preaching, we can reach out to others, but the challenge is to bring people back over the bridge. We have to, at one point, get direct, and somehow or other we have to coach the people to bring them across, and they may not want to come across to the bridge. Then we see that if we preach straight, very straight, we're also going to get, some people are going to like it, and they're going to be the straight ones. They're going to be into it, and they want Krishna consciousness in the straight form. There are many people who want Krishna consciousness unadulterated, who have always looked for something that was not adulterated, because everything is adulterated in this world. Everything, always mixed with something, just adulterated. Put some water. Yes. So this is the material world. So pure Krishna consciousness. That is actually our mission. We are the custodians, the caretakers of pure devotional service, of pure Krishna consciousness. That's what we have. Yes, we can package it. Yes, we can try and speak a language that people can accept. And we all do that to an extent. We all try to say something that is relevant when we're preaching. There was a man in Dai Nippon, the printing company in Japan, where the books were printed. And Prabhupada would go to Dai Nippon and personally join with Tamal Krishna Maharaj and sometimes others in the negotiations for printing so many books, right? And Tamal Krishna Maharaj, he would play the person who would really bargain very heavy. So he would just go and bargain and offer a price which was way beyond the proper price. And then after some time, Prabhupada would just go like, come on, Tamal Krishna, how can you offer them so little? That's not proper. They cannot make a living like that. They cannot make a profit. And then Prabhupada would go in like the referee and said, no, we cannot do that. We have to give them something more. And then it settled. Prabhupada came in like as if he was settling it instead of negotiating it. In this way, he got a very good price. right? So he was regularly connecting with these executives from the Dai Nippon Company. And then one time they went there and they were negotiating, and one of the big executives, he was absent-minded. You know, it's like, it's a game, right? And he wasn't with it, you know? So it was an easy victory. And said, Prabhupada said, what is wrong with Mr., I don't know what his name was, Hashimoto or something, you know, whatever his name was, or Yamaha. What is wrong? What is wrong with him? Right? And they said, oh, his son has died. Now what are you going to say? He's a young son, you know, in his 20s, he has died. I mean, it's a tragedy. It's like, it's extra painful. He's not meant to die, he's too young, you know. Someone of 80 dies, you know. It was time that the old guy finally croaked, you know. But, you know, it's sad, but was to be expected, but in his 20s. So, what would you say? What would we say to someone whose son has died? What would you say? Anybody? What would you say?
He's still alive.
Okay, he's still alive. All right, thanks. I'm totally heartbroken. My son is dead, and you're telling me he's still alive. You know, get out of here. Anybody else? Yeah.
I had this incident actually once in Sankirtan.
Yeah.
And then give this lady Bhagavad Gita, and I told her that she should read the second chapter. It was a very intense moment. She cried and she gave her explanation with a nice exchange. I didn't explain much, I just listened to her.
Okay, the second chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, Najayate Mriyate Vakadachin. You know, the soul never takes birth, the soul never dies, and that theme. Okay, that's an approach. Yes.
I had last week, also in Sankirtan.
Yes.
His son made suicide.
Oh.
And I said, I listened to him, and I said that, now you are smashed up. And he was looking. I said, yeah, but listening. And then I said, it can be a blessing to pray to Lord. Like, because you don't have now so much false ego. So you can truly pray for help and surrender and taste the nectar of such, how to say? So,
He didn't punch you. You're lucky.
he took the books.
He took the books. Yeah, he accepted it. Okay, Akila Prabhu.
This earth is a place for suffering.
This earth is a place for suffering. Akila Uvacha.
Krishna Uvacha.
The prophet has spoken. Yes. You're getting a microphone. If you
Just shortly, I think in many cases it's important to first listen to that person before we speak something.
Yeah.
So give him a time.
Yeah. That's a good point. I mean, because people, they don't want philosophy, they want some sympathy. That is a good point. Prabhupada, he was also thinking like that. Prabhupada was also thinking like not just philosophy, but he needs sympathy. So Prabhupada went to him and he said, with a lot of heart, you know, I heard the very sad news, you know. I heard that your son has passed on. And he fully shared the emotion of the man. So, and then he said, and then Prabhupada started to think with him and said, yeah, you know, there's no solution. What can we do? He said, there is no solution but only one solution. I said, there's a solution. There's only one solution. There's only one thing you can do to get your son back. Prabhupada said, you pray to Krishna. Because Krishna brought the dead son of his teacher back to this world. So Prabhupada didn't say the soul is eternal. Prabhupada didn't say you can pray. Prabhupada didn't say he's not dead. Prabhupada acknowledged diseases. It's terrible. He's dead, and and there's only one thing you want. You want your son back. I understand. He went to the core of what the person was thinking. The person thinking just wanted his son back. And Prabhupada said, this is going to be tough, but it can be done. It can be done. Krishna can do it. Anyway, that was his approach. The point I want to make with that, and with this example, is that preaching is not stereotype. It's like, although I know some book distributors who always say the same thing, right? Like Brigupati, for example, is very famous, right? And Brigupati always says the same line, but he makes a difference in the tone of the word, what is it? Nothing like a skunk, he also said. This is not... Anyway, he has some jokes, and he just says it every time, to everyone, the same thing. But he changes, sometimes he emphasizes one word a little more, a little less. But everyone is an individual. And when we reach out to people, we can give them we can be sensitive to where they are. Of course, some book distributors, they were so much in the fire, they said anything. I remember that Pragos, ACBSP, would go out and just go to people and say, Cheto Darpanam Marjanam, and give them the book, right? And then Dava Mahatmi, the next one, and just recite the whole Siksastika. But that's transcendental. That's when you're in the fire, I guess. Then you can do anything. Manidhar knows these things.
No, I used to say always also the same until today. It's so funny, I get embarrassed on the street. I say the same thing I said when I was 18 years old. I distribute let's say to girls, which could be easily my daughter. In the same way I distributed to girls when I was 18. Then I look sometimes there's a shopping window, and I look in a window on my image, and I go, oh my God, old man harassing little girls like that must look strange. Actually, I tell you, they don't care. They giggle the same way, they respond exactly the same way. This happened to me on Sankirtan in Sweden, which is very few people on the street. And I was with one bhakta. And there was only one on the street, it was 4 girls going from school. And I was going, hello, nice books here. Huh? And I distributed the books, and they were all, hey! You girls know how to giggle for nothing. They didn't understand anything, but they were just, hey! And they were like, and so I just, they gave something. It was enough for 2 books, so I left them 2 books. 2 books I took back. They didn't mind. They were like, and then he went around the corner. There was this bhakta standing there. And he automatically offered them also a book. Said, no. We already got 2 books from this young boy there around the corner. And they left. So we were just 2 people in a town, in an empty town. That happens in Sweden. So he came around the corner looking at me and he said, there's somebody else distributing here? Because this girl said she just got books from some young boy. And he looked at me, and there was nobody there. And I just smiled at him. I said, this is Sankirtan. It's Navayovanam. You get always younger and younger. Because actually it's beyond that. There's nothing to do with this. This is, we don't relate here. I have a hard time even to relate to this senior Vaishnava stuff and all this. I go, my God, they put me in an old age home. I cannot... It's just like once you are on the preaching thing, we are all the same. Young, old, this and that. It's beyond that. I don't want to get too personal here, but
It's okay, it's all right. You can.
I met Maharaj maybe, I don't know, 15 years ago, 20 years ago.
20.
Even Spain.
At least 20.
20, yeah.
Yeah, Spain was
Yeah.
22 years ago.
So we're 20 years older. I don't think so. He's the same.
He turned a little gray, you know.
It's the same. It's just, he's out there rolling on, you know. Hey, don't box me in, you know. It's the same thing. You try to screw me up into some box and package me in, give me some title and some designation and put me in a picture or, you know, and going, you know what I will do? I will come out of the picture and going, it's insult to limit me to a picture. This is not why I joined this. Prabhupada gave us such a space to move. This is freedom, you know. This is the real freedom. You can tell me I'm stupid, you can tell me I'm old or I'm young. I don't care. You know, people used to tell me on the street, you know how stupid you are. And I said, that's right, therefore I read these books. Hey, you are even more stupid, you should take more books. They didn't know what to say. They said, you think you know everything? I said, no, therefore I read the books. Do you know everything? Then read the books. It's just, you know, it's undefeatable. Once you have these books in hand, and you have something which can answer any question. I challenge people and I say, just give me some problem. Give me something. Oh, this is a big problem. What is the problem? Like, you know, I'm dying. I said, well, I'm also dying. So what's the big problem? hey, we are all dying. Where is the problem? So this is, I mean, you know, and people look at you like, I met one boy on the street. He looked really depressed. I was thinking, hey, that could be a bhakta. You know. So I went to him straight with the book, and he looked at me like, really, just a suicidal case. And he looked at me like, I'm crazy. I'm completely crazy. And I said, who told you that? And he said, everybody tells me I'm completely crazy. I told him, just imagine, they are all crazy and you are the only sane one. And therefore they are telling you. And he lightened up, you know, and he was going, nobody ever told me that. But this is actually a position of a devotee. They are telling us we are crazy. Come on. Define what a crazy thing is. I can give you a long lecture how crazy you are. Explain to me how crazy I am. It's simple. It's simple. It's so nice to be just with Prabhupada, you know. It's nothing. Anybody can come with anything. They say, you believe this? I said, no. I'm just checking it out. For 50 years I'm checking this out. Give me something better, I will drop this immediately. Immediately. I'm not going to be Hare Krishna for this. Give me something better. Come with something. Something. You know, I never met in 50 years anybody who came with anything better. I'm still waiting. Hey, come on with something. Tell me something interesting. Huh? And then they go, I go, yeah, come on, I heard this one before, you know. You have something new coming up. Come on. It's really boring out there, you know that? They're all Sylvester. Boom. Okay. I mean, I saw this one before. So what? Then the rockets are gone, there's some dirt out there, some garbage, and that's it. It's a new year. But the Chinese people don't think so. They have another counting thing going on. In India, they have another counting. You know, so it's a very relative. So why should I get hooked up on this? What is real? What stays as a reality? I really loved, I have to say, this Maharaj yesterday, how he described that this Krishna consciousness means to take off the mask one after another. It's all designations, right? One after another. And you think, oh, no more mask. No, it's just another one. Okay, you take this one off. Therefore people get scared when they chant. They come back and they go, you told me you will chant, I become happy. The more I chant, the more depressed I get. I just realized I'm a total idiot. You know, this is not a very inspiring realization. You cheated me. You said, chant Hare Krishna and be happy. I chant Hare Krishna, I realized I'm an idiot. So this is not very nice. And just keep on chanting. There's another mask coming down. Just keep on, you know. And this never ends, actually. It never ends. This gets really exciting. How much of this has to come down? And suddenly you realize, oh, I'm getting lighter. With every mask, you get lighter. You don't have to carry the burden of designation. You know. There were the Kamis, they look so pathetic, you know, everybody's so serious. We have to suffer for the German nation. Where's the German nation? Come on. They put a monuments for people who suffered for the German nation, and like some crow is passing by and passing stool on that thing. You know, the crows are not German. They go, so much for the nationality. They fly over the border, they have no passport, you know. But the humans, that's the real problem. They're pathetic. You know. I still was distributing in Germany. I met people who were fighting at Stalingrad. You know, they are already dead by now. But I heard stories, I could tell you stories from the street. Very amazing, you know. Maybe I just mentioned one. I met a guy on the street, Rottweil. I think this was down here, South Germany. Little man. And he just came. Excuse me, are these books about God? And I knew, okay, another Christian. Because standard was, are these books about God? Is this about Jesus? I'm a Christian, I will call police. It was completely connected. We heard it so many times. I was thinking, maybe Jesus is in a police station, you know, the chief of the police. I don't know. It was always the same thing. I'm a Christian, I will call police. It was the same thing. And we heard it so many times. So, but this man, he was just standing there, little guy, and he looked at me like, so I was going, like turning around, I was saying, oh yeah, come on. I was going, yes, this is all books about God. And he looked still the same. He was going, I want to buy them all. I was going, oh, no Christian is saying that. So I was going, okay. So he bought like 5 books, different, whatever I had. I was going, oh, that's a good start. You don't meet people like this all the time. So I just said, excuse me, I have a question. Why are you interested in this? Do you know Hare Krishna? He said, not really. I just want to know if these books are about God. I said, so how are you interested in God like this? And then he became very silent and he said, I will tell you a story. I used to be the driver of the tank at Stalingrad. Tank battle. In the middle of that big mess. So now I was a driver, and driver means you have this much to see, you know. And you have the captain up there in a tower. They're connected by radio. And he tells you where to go, how to shoot. You know, there's another guy shooting next to you. So this is like 3-4 people in such a tank. So he was driving and he heard the commands from above. Things became so bad. He saw the tank next to them, bang, just blew up, everybody dead. And they drove through this. So finally his captain, he lost completely the composure. He lost the nerves. And he said, what kind of, I cannot repeat that German word, really something nasty. What kind of God is this? Who allows such a carnage to happen? Same moment he was silent. Why? Well, he had no head. There was this big bullet coming, heading for the tank, but it missed the tank. It just flew over it and just completely beheading the guy. Just it hit the head and disappeared. So this driver was driving and then blimp, down came the captain, but no head. So he was like, and somehow he made it out of that mess. He came into the Russian imprisonment, and after a few years of a really hardship, he was sent back to Germany. That's the man I met. So he said, I was not very religious before that, but when I got this experience, I was thinking, don't mess around with God. It was a very vivid action, reaction. So I explained to him shortly, it's karma, and he said, it's in these books, and he said, interesting. I saw this happening. Finished. It changed his whole life, this experience. So sometimes people, but I told him, God doesn't like to cut off people's heads, you know that. And he said, yeah, I don't think so. But it happens, That was a very vivid action. I never forgot that story because the man was really impressed. Sometimes, unfortunately, it has to become like this. So we wake up. I think now we are a little bit in a time coming where something similar may happen. People have to wake up. The death is coming closer. Material nature is tightening up the screws. It's a good time to preaching, All right, please. I don't want to take too much of your time.
No, you're doing great.
No. I always come with the graphical stuff.
Yeah, but that's.
I have so many stories, It's just Ravensburg. I remember the town. I went on the street. A lady stands behind me, going, I want the book. I was going, another Christian lady. Okay, okay. Yeah, look at her, and then she said, no. I want the Krishna book. I'm going, you already have a Krishna book. She said, yeah, part 1. I want the part 2. So I said, of course. And I gave her part 2 and I said, why do you like that book? She said, well, I'm a Christian. I was going, why do you like that book? She said, there's something wrong with our religion. Either we don't have a picture of God, or there is this picture of this old man behind the clouds who looks like a fed-up pensioner, smashing people with a thunderbolt on the head. He looks really agitated. That cannot be God. But when I opened your book, he said, she was a very sentimental person. She said, I don't read much, but I like the pictures. And I like the pictures. When I look at the picture of Krishna, I think, God actually must look like that. Because he's very happy. And he's always beautiful and very, very happy. He said, actually, when I look out of my window from Ravensburg, that's beyond the Alps. You can look all the way to Austria sometimes. She said, when I see the sun coming up, I think, for me, it's like God smiling. Then I open your book and I think, yeah, that's him. It was a completely emotional, realization she had there. But that's the reason why I also never became a Christian, because I went into the church. I did. I liked the place. It was cool. In the summer it's cool and it's quiet and nobody is there. So I thought, this is a very peaceful place. So I was chanting even at church, just sitting there chanting, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. But then I look at the altar and there was this. It's going, what a Guru Puja this is. You nail the Guru on the cross, you drink his blood and eat his body. They have that. This is the ceremony, I was going, my God. And then I got cured because I remember once sitting in such a chair, I was already chanting, Hare Krishna, and and I was sitting in that cool church, and suddenly somebody grabbed me on the neck, really violently, and he said, get out, we don't do this here. That was the main priest. And he threw me out of the car, of the church, and locked the door. I was going, I don't think I become a Christian. So, yeah. And I could give you a long lecture about Christianity in Germany, because the first 2 years on Sankirtan, it was established. We couldn't sleep in the cars were not even prepared for that much. To go in a hotel, out of question, it's too expensive. But we found out, when we ring at the bell, either at the Catholic church or this priest is living always next to it, so they have a guest houses. And we told them, we are monks, we are traveling around. And they were like, oh, they had not much experience with Hare Krishna. So they were going, oh, monks, okay, can we stay overnight? Sure. So we had sometimes quite some accommodation, because the place was quite empty always. It was like packed with Christian preachers, not at all. It was just empty little hotels standing around. Every church had some. So we were just living in these places. And naturally, either the Protestant priests, which were usually socialist or communist, they had not much of it, They were reading Mao Zedong, and I remember the libraries they had. That was the Protestant type. And then there was the Catholic type. They, very often we met this kind of elderly men, they liked us. Because they were going, oh, monks. We were going, it's amazing, all these years, nobody questioned when I told them about the four regulative principles. Well, you are just talking, come on, let's get serious. No, they really believed that instantly we are doing this. So these Catholic priests were very respectful, actually. We're going, oh, this is still young people doing this. Oh, come in. We had one in one little German town. He had a little church, old church. And he was getting up like us in the morning, chanting on his rosary. We were chanting our japa, We end up in a church. I remember that. It's a church hall. And brahmacharis, young guys. And they were going, oh, you have an altar here. We also have an altar. So they put on an altar, there was Jesus, and then they put on an altar, the Guru Parampara, and, Prabhupada, the same altar. And the man didn't mind at all. He said, oh, you're also monks. It was not some religious, dialogue, nothing to do with this. It happened naturally. The man was serious. So he said, oh, that's very nice. So we just put the altar. I remember the brahmachari bringing midanga from the car. And I went all the way up. I never sat in a church on a big organ. But it was an old and simple organ. I could get the manual. Okay, you pull the bass and you pull this and you put this. And then I was thinking, well, I knew that there must be some air coming in the pipes. And actually, it was foot operated as an alternative or electricity operated. So I didn't know how to switch the electricity on, but I knew with the feet how to step. And he was going, through the church. When they pulled the bass. So I was going, Samsara Davana Lalida Loka. And he wrote this, Haribal. There was an incredible acoustic in that place. And they end up dancing with that priest around that altar. And we were playing, we had Mangala Artik like this. I remember that. And it was going on for quite a few years. 3-4 years we were traveling. And we always end up in that church. And then he said, I have a really sad news for you. You cannot come anymore. It was a central order issued from the central church management. Never Hare Krishna accommodation. Don't let them in. So that was the end of that time. That was one of these German things, I remember. I'm not very philosophical.
It's very graphic.
Yeah.
Different places have their different moods. It's like in the Netherlands, it wasn't so Christian. I never really. You didn't encounter many Christians in Holland.
Yeah, I know that. I distributed on the border.
No, we never came across Christians so much. It was more hedonistic, like
Amsterdam, especially, or
yeah, around Amsterdam, of course. If you would preach around Amsterdam, then like one brahmachari was on the street, and this girl dressed in a tiger skin outfit grabbed him and said, "And now you're coming with me." She wouldn't let him go. It's different. But somehow or other, the mercy of Lord Chaitanya is with us, therefore we need to take time to really read these books. Like the Chaitanya Charitamrita, right, is sometimes treated as if it's radioactive, because you have to first read the Bhagavad Gita, then you can read the Bhagavatam, and then the Chaitanya Charitamrita, because Prabhupada said that this is the postgraduate book, right? But that's not at all how it is. Srila Prabhupada was very eager from day one that knowledge of the Chaitanya Charitamrita would be known to the devotees. And several publications were there. He translated chapter 7, Adi Lila chapter 7 was published as one book. Right? There's the famous verse, Say Pancha Tattvamili Prithiviyasi Apurva Prema Bandharera Mudrokadiya, the storehouse of love of God that's broken up. That's in that chapter. It's also the chapter where Lord Chaitanya is defeating the Mayavadis. In this way, we its Chaitanya Charitamrita is very much making it all meaningful. Because otherwise, on the street, it's not only we who are preaching, Maya is also preaching. Maya is preaching to us, and we are trying to, and sometimes Maya is also wins. Sometimes it's difficult. Sometimes there are moments of doubts. One devotee stood on the bridge and he said, "I had enough." He's on the edge of the bridge. I said, "Don't jump." He said, No, I'm not going to jump. I'm just going to throw these books in the water. I said, "No, you can't do that, You can't do that. It's like, just give them to someone else. Then we can distribute them. If you
Germany, we had one devotee, he wanted always to jump.
Yeah. Well,
I had him in a car for a long time, so because I was always making sure he doesn't jump. Yeah. He was always distributing on a bridge.
Yeah. You have to be careful. Now we've had all kinds, like I was out with this devotee, and I was cooking in the morning, and I cooked khichdi every day and so on. And then he complained, said, "I don't want to go out with you anymore because you never cook halva." So I said, "Okay, all right, tomorrow I'll make halva." So I made the halva, but I forgot to put the sugar in. And then he thought I did it on purpose, I was trying to chant my rounds, trying to cook the khichdi, cook a halva at the same time, It's like you need 4 hands for all that. So, because you're living in a van and somehow or other, life has to go on. So, but then it also turned out that, after some time, this devotee, I noticed he was a little strange, and turned out he was taking drugs. Yeah, he was taking drugs, hard drugs. So we are at the front, where Maya is right there. It's raw. It's in your face. It's not like sheltered, like in the temple. The temples are just wonderful little islands in the middle of an ocean of Maya, and islands of purity, islands where, And we appreciate, when we haven't been in the temple for a while, how potent these temples are, how nice it is to be with devotees. So the balance has to be kept. At one point they stopped us from doing books and made us sell paraphernalia because they wanted money. And at one point I was doing stickers. I was telling them I was doing stickers in a drive-in cinema in Australia. But drive-in cinemas are like, boys and girls in a car, and they are not for watching movies, obviously. So I would hit on the back of the car so that they could cover themselves.
Yes.
Then knock on the window. Do not smile. And say, $10. And they would give $10 because they felt so guilty. And
it's a good moment.
Yeah, they felt so guilty.
When people have sex, they are great. We do the same thing on Bodensee here in the summertime. These parking lots covered by bushes. And we were so crazy because on the street there was nobody in the evening anymore. So we went to these parking lots. There were always these cars standing around. They had sex inside. And we were always coming from behind, just bang, bang, bang on a roof. And they're like, ooh, ooh, ooh. You know, and they really buy the book really fast to get rid of you. You know? I mean, we didn't care, you know.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. Yes, exactly.
Don't imitate that, please.
That's the point. We did all these things, all these crazy, because it was more wild. Right? It's like in the earlier days things were more wild. I was out and I was having the lines that we had were also more wild. So I had this line about street kids. Do you know that there are children eating from garbage cans in your city? And what are we gonna do about it? What are we gonna do about it? Oh, this one lady, she gave me 300. You know, and I changed place, you know, like I was scared she'll come back and catch me. That was crazy. We went into hospitals. We did hospitals. We went into the hospitals during the visiting hour. One devotee on a chair doing a speech. Today is a charity action. Here are the books. And then the other one going around the beds and collecting the donations from the patients and the guests. Right? It was huge. And, you know, like, this gentleman, he gave, you know. Everyone takes out a little more. And it's just got all this, you know, it's like huge amount of money, so many books. And then suddenly this voice, the nurse, the head nurse, what is going on here? And then it had to be totally cool, you know, like, but the charity action, of course, you know, it's like you know, you go like, charity action, what is this? So yeah, you don't know. Today is the day, you know, it's the 27th, it's the day. Didn't you read the letter? Letter, no. Just have a look in the office. We'll just finish up and we'll be with you in a moment. We very coolly finish up and then try to escape. Right? Somehow or other, you know, we escaped. And then we did it again, one floor down. I almost became a patient in the hospital, you know, so much anxiety. The crazy stuff we did, crazy stuff. What can you tell some?
Oh, we did things, just, I mean, this was not planned, but to distribute in the nudistic beaches is not so easy. You know why? Because they have nothing on them. So, I mean, we just passed by, you know, it just happened accidentally. It's crazy, don't do this. They have to always go and find the cloth, because somewhere they have the cloth. So they have to find the wallet out and this and then. Where do you put the book? They have no pockets, they are naked. Things like that. We didn't care. We really didn't care. But there are still people, because we are looking for people. Sometimes we run out of people, you know. So we simply didn't care. Wherever the life was and some life symptoms, you know, so we just joined in. And then you end up in a very strange circumstances. The worst is the city of Berlin. The city is so crazy. I don't know today exactly, but I have seen no reason why it should be better. But Berlin, as you know, was before the unification, was like an island. It was the West Berlin in the middle of East Germany, you know. So, and the advertisement for Berlin, official advertisement, come here and get crazy. Because Berlin always was ahead of the rest of Germany in regards to degradation. They had the first cocaine wave, heroin wave, punk, you know, everything came out of Berlin. But it was packed with young people, because if you register in Berlin as a young man and you studied in Berlin, you didn't have to go to the military. So many young people took advantage of that. It was a center of anarchistic, almost practically terroristic. There was battles with police and the anarchists, you know. And we were just in the middle of the whole thing with Bhakti Bhushan Maharaj, you know. And that was, we just passed by on a preaching tour and then we realized, my God, this place is far out. We sit down on Kurfürstendamm, this is the major crossing. Suddenly 200 people immediately standing there. Just us two, you know, with a harmonium. There was people standing, staring at us. We were like, whoa, wow. We didn't have that in the rest of Germany like that. You know, Germany was like, police. In Berlin, the police joined in. They were like, hey! You know, I was going, wow, we are going to stay here. So one Bhakta, he joined in West Germany and he left a flat behind, which was their rotten 2-room flat. And we had such a simple thing. We were sitting on the street with the harmonium, and on a photocopy machine, Bhakti Bhushan Maharaj pulled out little addresses from the flat. And we cut it in scissors. That was our invitation card, you know, Sunday feast, here, this address. It was just 2-room flat. The first Sunday feast, 120 people came. We were like, ah! Joe is ringing the bell all the time. Fortunately, the flat, you know, in Berlin, the buildings are squares, and one square goes into each other. So we were in the middle of all these 4 squares. There's no more light, there's no oxygen, there's nothing, you know. The flat was rotten, it was wet and rotten. And all these people, and all the neighborhood already, that was before the immigration days, there was practically no Germans living there. There was all Turkish people and all kinds of. So they were wondering what's going on down there in that little flat, you know, 120 people in and just boom, bell ringing and kirtan and all this. And we had no place to distribute prasadam, so we just put it the staircase up, you know, just people opened the door, and there was a noise, and there was people eating, you know, and then we gave them also prasadam, the neighbors, you know. So, you know, it was crazy. And Berlin people live at night. So the Sunday feast started at 4 o'clock in the afternoon and end up 4 o'clock in the morning. They're not going. They were staying there. Okay. You know, it was so packed. I remember Bhakti Bhushan, she had a harmonium on his lap, and there was already the first woman sitting there, just practically on his lap. It was so packed, and we had all the windows open in the winter just to ventilate the place. It was so mad. And Bhakti Bhushan Maharaj had a simple, you know, schedule. Kirtan, lecture, prasadam. Kirtan, lecture, prasadam. Kirtan. And he repeated the whole thing until there was maybe 4 o'clock, 5 people still sitting there. That was the real bhaktas. You know, he made in 1 year, certain devotees came out of that crazy town. I mean, and for me, anyway, for me it was difficult. I wanted to go back on Sankirtan, you know, but I couldn't. I was too sick for that. And they tricked me. Bhakti Bhushan Maharaj stole the keys from my Sankirtan van, you know, and then he came back in 5 minutes later and he said, you are going with me on traveling. Shri Vishnu Hare Krishna said. That was the important mantra. And and I felt, my car, they stole my car, And then I end up with him in an old Toyota Hiace driving through Germany, preaching programs. Preaching programs, the addresses were from a little box where people ordered Bhagavad Gita maybe 2 years ago, 3 years ago, and somebody kept the addresses. So that was our contacts. We ring the bell just on the basis of that card. A man ordered Bhagavad Gita 2 years ago. He opens the door, and there is 2 monks standing there. Bhakti Bhushan Maharaj was incredible. He had always medanga hanging around his neck. I don't know why. And he was going, bum bum. He said, "We are here." And he just walked in. I was like, oh, this is a little bit too far. And the man was shocked. He was going, "Okay, come in." And we said, "Well, you have a Bhagavad Gita?" He said, "Yeah, I ordered the book 2 years ago." "That's very nice." And he just sit on a sofa and blah. And this was one address. Crazy places. We came to a student home which was empty. All the students left. There was only one room left. There was one student inside sleeping. But he didn't have the door locked. So we opened the door. There was this guy sleeping. Bhakti Bhushan Maharaj, he came and just sit on a bed like this, woke him up. And then the man woke up and there was a monk in his bed. I remember him with a blanket just blinking with the eyes. and we had some kind of simple preaching tool. It was photocopied from Back to Godhead pictures, which we pasted on a file like this. So he opened the file and showed him the picture. "Look, this is changing bodies. Look, this is Krishna." And the guy was under the blanket going, yeah. So that was another program. Then we came to Hamburg late at night. We had no place to sleep. We didn't know, And then there was an address. We came to the address. It was big, fancy. There's very rich people living in Hamburg. Big, fancy. It was Saturday night. We came there, and the building was totally illuminated. And we realized, they have a party here. But the parents were gone. Rich parents were gone. And it was just the son having all his friends coming in. And girlfriends and everything. And I told Bhakti Bhushan Maharaj, "I'm not going to end that. They all, look at this." They were all, And I said, and he just went again with the medanga, ring the bell, and the completely crazy guy opened, and he was going, "We are here," bang, and he walked in. So it resulted, they had a kind of big entrance hall. It was a fancy big villa. And there was a white piano, this you open like this. So end up like this, that I was hammering on a piano, and Bhakti Bhushan Maharaj danced with all these crazy drunk people around the piano. And that was the Harinam. And they liked that. They were like, "Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna." And I remember then at the end, it was going on for hours. And then at the end, one of this guy goes, "Hey guys, where are you going to sleep?" And Bhakti Bhushan Swami said, "Here." So I ended up sleeping under that piano. I don't know where he was sleeping. I just remember in the morning waking up, there was everywhere this drunk, all people lying with their girlfriends. So we just collected our stuff and left again, and that was another program. So it's like, it was a whole tour like this. But then we end up in Berlin, and that was the end station, because for 1.5, 2 years we end up in Berlin, which was incredible. It couldn't have been more crazy. We had a temple in the same street where all the main brothel houses of the town are. I had to transport ladies from the Sunday feast to the subway. They were scared to come out of that building, because as soon as they came out, some car was stopping and, "How much?" So they said, "Please, can you bring me to the subway?" And I was like, "Okay," because when a monk is there with a lady, then nobody stops, So it's just like, and that was our preaching. It was incredible. It was just so many people came. So sometimes you end up in hell. So you preach in hell. you know. So anyway, there are so many stories. I mean, and
Okay, one question.
Yeah.
Now, after all the stories, just one question. How do you keep your spiritual strength in the middle of all so much madness? When you're in the middle of a party and there's people like this.
It's actually quite easy.
I mean, didn't many devotees get into spiritual difficulty that? Or
No,
shouldn't we have a bit more mode of
I found it
goodness?
personally very easy because the hell is really staring in your face. And I found it very easy.
Hell.
The hell, it's just so contrasting. It's easy. I found it more difficult when you come into this, you mentioned something of that, with this, let's purify the chakras. Om. That I found more difficult. Because there is something, looks like they will accept Krishna consciousness. No, just slimy Mayavadis. I'm not saying all of them. I'm not saying that. But you end up with this. Slimy. They are like slime. They go, you nice, me nice. We both same. And they just start to smear you around like this. Whatever you tell to them, they go, yes, 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 I know Bhagavad Gita. But it's a secret. It's stated in the Bhagavad Gita. Psst. We were ending up with Bhakti Bhushan Maharaj, we ended up with the same thing in Berlin, Yoga Society. They invited us. So we came, we came in a dark room. There was a candle in the middle burning, and they were all sitting there, staring at the candle. And we came there, we waited, okay, so what are we going to do here? And they didn't really, they want us to integrate us. And I remember in the darkness, sitting there for 15 minutes, nothing happened. They're all staring at the candle, And suddenly Bhakti Bhushan next to me makes... just blew the whole session, And they were like, oh, my meditation is disturbed. And he just laughed and we walked out. That was the end of that program. That's more difficult. That's why I found it more difficult, this kind of people. But when you have a crazy young people, drunk, staring at you, we didn't care. They could have sex life. We didn't care. It's a very gross affair, It's very graphical. It's very simple. That's how Maya looks like. So you can see, okay. And if you want that, well, be my guest. Join that thing. It was quite easy. But we had the problems in Berlin.
We had problems in Amsterdam also. We went preaching and came back with less devotees than we left.
I can just quote something. Bhakti Vikash Maharaj, we are very close, he told me, Amsterdam, I remember. I came there already as a kami, visiting Amsterdam. I got out of the train, somebody immediately stole my wallet. And after 5 minutes, I was approached by a prostitute asking what I know. He said, that was my first impression. Welcome to Amsterdam. Very similar places, actually. Berlin and Amsterdam, quite a similarities there.
Well,
but preaching can be very potent.
Well,
because Maya is just squeezing them out. They come like of the toothpaste, tube. They're like, and the stories from those devotees who joined in Berlin, cannot imagine how they lived and what drugs they took and the association they kept. And my fantasy was not reaching that far, really. He said, you lived like this? Yeah. But they joined, and they became Sankirtan devotees. Bhakti Bhushan Maharaj had a fantastic way how to channel them slowly into that Sankirtan thing. I end up with the same people sitting in my van. Still pretty funny, One of them told me, when I distribute in Berlin, sometimes the crosses on the churches, they are sparking. It was still the LSD going on, So, yeah, we had bhaktas like this, but they surrendered. They joined. They took part. Whereby this kind of, rotten butter Mayavadis, they smear you around, This is what I couldn't, And you find finally there's no humility. There's just arrogance. So how do you join like this? The punks, they had in Berlin a sign: no fun, no future. That was a culture. It's punk. We said, well, that's exactly what we are preaching here. Come on. In the material world, no fun, no future. That's actually our slogan. You stole it from us. And they became very, they start to listen. Or we had rules in a Sunday feast. No throwing prasaram on the wall. No rats allowed. They always came with the rats, They had a rat, they have a pet, always the rat sticking out of the pocket. And it was like, my rat, And sometimes we said, don't take the shoes off. Because the smell coming out just knocked you out, So, things like that.
We had a special room for that.
Huh?
Yeah. In Amsterdam there was a special room for that, for them.
Please, the next roof, next floor,
Yeah. Smell test. Okay, I think we've used up the time, Manidhar. It's like...
I always ruin the time. But
Yeah.
but I could go on.
I know you.
It's really Please,
I guess
some question from Maharaj.
No, we can
No?
closing words.
No?
No more need for a question.
Okay.
I think that the movement has grown in many ways, and in the earlier days, there was no sense of what it meant to be in an ashram, or of the value of the mode of goodness. We had no time for that. The focus was very much on preaching. The movement was very dynamic, and really everyone was absorbed in preaching. Things changed. The focus on preaching has diminished. More energy on living, on I wouldn't say we have just both sides have their good and bad sides. It's necessary for this movement, the initial enthusiasm and the wildness that was engaged, the motive passion and whatever that was engaged in Sankirtan was purified people, and we got a lot of mercy. But to sustain spiritual life in the long term, we also need the mode of goodness. And so I think that our movement has evolved in this way. We have learned more what it means to be in an ashram. There's more discussion on this, how to live a temple life. We're much more conscious about that now. But a little bit of the old preaching spirit, we need it. Because without it, there is no life. So without being critical of the present day, saying, no, we have gained, we have evolved, we have learned, we've read more books now than we read then. But that adventurous preaching spirit of just going anywhere and everywhere, that is why this movement has grown so much. Well, undoubtedly it is. That spirit has made so many devotees. So yeah, we hope that. We're very happy to see the Sankirtan festival. We are greatly impressed that all the devotees went out in the midst of oppressive circumstances, and that they transcended it, and that they did like a fantastic marathon. I'm very much looking forward to hearing the scores later today and all that with all of you, and we thank you for giving us your association. The association of the Sankirtan devotees is so valuable. So Param Vijayate Sri Krishna Sankirtanam Ki Jai. Harinam Sankirtan Yakya Ki Jai. Gaura Bhaktavinda Ki Jai.
His Holiness Kanana Raja Ki Jai. His Grace Mandihara Prabhu Ki Jai. So Hare Krishna, dear devotees, because we are a little bit late already, please, if you could all empty the temple room so we can prepare it for serving prasadam. If you all go out, then you will be able to come back in really quick as well. So no darshan now. You can take darshan later. Abhishek is coming. So many more amazing darshans. Thank you.
This is the real one.
Simhachalam Dham Ki Jai. Harinam Sankirtan Yagya Ki Jai.
This is so easy to play them because they go on their own.
3:30 ist das Score-Reading heute. Die Scores werden vorgelesen um 3:30 Uhr.
3:30 Uhr.
Genau, wenn du auch.
Die Scores, also die ganzen
Genau,
Dinge von
die Lotus, die geben immer die Keule und die Lotusfüße.
Sehr gut, sehr gut. Ja.
Kannst auch gerne die Segnen geben.
Nee, ich will nur einfach nur gucken.